I'm going to shock the world here.
I'm calling for an open tryout. If anyone is watching this, I'm calling for an open tryout. I got a year of eligibility left.
Might have some.
Anthony, where is home for you?
Home is Medland.
That's wrong. All right, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just going to disagree.
While we were in class this morning, I was watching his mixtape, and this guy catches and shoots from anywhere.
Are you ready for some debate? Because Bobcat Breakdown starts right now.
Welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. I'm Tony Wetmore, and it's a battle of the Zacks today as I'm joined by men's ice hockey beat reporters Zach Naffa and Zach Stokinger. Naffa, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great, Tony. You know, it is Zach and Zach, but it's really the Tony show. I think we can agree on that, Stokinger.
I have to agree with you there, Naffa. It's definitely the Tony show tonight.
Before we kick off our debate, QBSN has a recap about the men's ice hockey opener.
On Sunday, the number 8 Quinnipiac Bobcats opened play with a 4-2 loss to the number 20 Northeastern Huskies at M&T Bank Arena. The 24-25 Bobcats roster included many first-year players and transfer students. It seemed like no love was lost for former Bobcat winger Christophe Tellier early in the matchup as he introduced his physicality to the party after the first stoppage of play. Tellier also netted a goal after a net mouth scramble just 5 minutes into play, making sure to show the Bobcat bench the Husky logo on his sweater before celebrating with his teammates. Northeastern would go to score 2 more goals, but first-year Chris Pelosi would score his first collegiate goal as a Bobcat in the gold and navy blue jerseys. Just 40 seconds after another Northeastern strike, junior winger Alex Pounder was able to find the back of the net. The Bobcats had a great fight in this game, but Northeastern Huskies would win this one 4-2 after 60 minutes of play.
All right, now let's debate, starting with women's ice hockey. Kaley Doyle has won back-to-back ECAC Goalie of the Week awards. Logan Andrews started every game but one last season. Do you think Doyle will outperform Andrews this year? Naffa, we'll start with you.
Yeah, Tony, I do think that Doyle is going to outperform Andrews. Doyle, while she was with Brown, during her sophomore and senior years, had a higher save percentage than Andrews did during the same time frame while Andrews was with Quinnipiac, while playing with a lesser defense in front of her. I think that you can just take the 1-0 loss against Quinnipiac last year for Brown, where Doyle made 43 saves to Andrews' 18. Quinnipiac won that game 1-0. Doyle just hasn't had the talent in front of her the way Andrews had in years past, and she faced almost 150 more shots last season alone than Andrews did in last season. I think that Doyle just has so much more potential than Andrews did here in Hamden.
Stokinger, what do you think?
Naffa, I love that you brought up talent pool because I would have to argue that Doyle has the similar talent pool that she had at Brown. I don't think this Bobcats team has really proven any talent that they have. And speaking of goalies, so far this year, Andrews has very similar statistics to Doyle through the first 4 games. And guess who's behind Doyle? First year Felisa Frank. She started tonight against Providence, got the shutout in a close game that almost went to overtime. I understand Doyle's got all these statistics, she's got the experience, but when you have someone like Felisa Frank who's proven they can play in the NCAA, I don't know that you can have a similar performance that Andrews did last year.
I don't think you can say the defense is proven when you're going to use a first-year goaltender who's played in one game that happened tonight against a lesser team like Providence as your example. And if
they lost to Northeastern, same conference.
In one game, they won it. They split games, and Doyle shut out Northeastern in the second game. On top of that, showing that you can have a first-year goaltender pitch a shutout also talks about the defensive system that the women's hockey team has implemented. I think that Doyle is a better goaltender than Andrews was, and with that higher save percentage, her goal against average was not as good, but that's just more of a detriment to her team than it is towards her as a goaltender.
I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree here, Naffa. I believe that Doyle will not have the similar season because I don't think she's going to get as many reps. I think Felisa Frank is going to take away reps from Doyle, and I think she may have a lackluster season. Games-wise, not statistics-wise, but I think she'll play less games here in Hamden.
All right, let's switch over to the men's side. On Sunday, Mate Marinov let in 3 goals throughout 35 minutes of action, while Dylan Silverstein played the entire third period and did not let a goal in and registered 4 saves. Who will we see starting come 7 p.m. on Saturday against Penn State? Stokinger, who do you think?
I mean, Tony, I think that it's an obvious answer. It's got to be Mate Marinov. I mean, he played 2 full periods. He only had 35 minutes of ice time. Noah Altman came in for the last 5 minutes of that second period, and then Silverstein took over. I think Mate Marinov is taking the spot. I understand he let in 3 goals, but that's because this new Bobcats team on the men's side had not played a game together. They were kind of chaotic, kind of loose. Rand Pecknold talked about how they left Mate on an island multiple times throughout that game. Nafa, I know you were in the presser with me. Yep. I don't know how you can phrase something like that any better without giving away that Mate is going to be your starter on Saturday.
See, Stoker, I do actually agree with you. I do think that against Penn State, it is going to be Marinov as the starting goaltender. You mentioned Pecknold said after the game just about as much by saying that they left him out to dry and that he played better. And with Silverstein only facing 4 shots in that, I feel like you didn't see enough of him. But if they do put Silverstein out there, how much confidence do you have in him? And how long or short do you think that Pecknold gives him as a leash?
I wouldn't give him as much as a leash as he did with Marinov last year. I remember a couple times last year when Marinov struggled. I think it was UNH last year when he let in 5 goals in the first period, yanked him. I don't think Silverstein gets that big of a leash. I think Pecknold realizes that this year they need to win a lot of games, and if they're going to have someone struggle like Silverstein, they're going to trust him. He's going to have to prove day in, day out, each start he gets every day in practice, that he's going to be right for this team. I think Marinov has cemented himself as a starter.
I agree, and I guess on the flip side too, if Marinov is the starter, how long of a leash do you think he gets? Because I think that leash is going to be very short, knowing you have a talent like Silverstein sitting right behind him.
See, I disagree with you there. I think Marinov has proven very well that he should be the starter of this team. Granted, 11 games played, but he had a 1.85 goals against average for a first year coming over. He's an international. He hasn't played these guys.
The eye test says a lot more than just the numbers.
What eye test? What eye test are we talking about? Silverstein faced 4 shots in the U.S. national development team. He had a 3.09 goals against average. You can't look at him.
Okay, is nothing. But the eye test for Marinov, we've seen Marinov struggle in the collegiate level.
Okay, yeah, sure. But I think even though he let in 3 goals against the Northeastern team, I think he's passed the eye test. In my eyes,
he let Marinov play as a first year. He'll let Silverstein play as a first year.
We'll see what happens on Saturday against Penn State. Now let's stick with the men's team. There are 14 new players on this year's roster. Which newcomer stood out to you the most in Sunday's exhibition match? Nafa?
Sometimes the easy answer is not the right answer. In this case, I'm going with the easy answer. I think it's going to be Chris Pelosi. Did score the goal. He had a couple more shots on net. I just feel like he was more noticeable than any of the other first years. I think Nate Benoit also shined, but he also had a key mistake that led to that second Northeastern goal where he took that delayed penalty, and then on the actual goal was kind of out of position as a result, resulted in a 2-on-1 going the other way, which then made it 2-0 Northeastern. And in a game like that, that can be, the difference between a win and a loss. So I'd like to hear what you have to say on this one.
Nafa, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think Chris Pelosi was the standout newcomer. We look back last year coming into the season. Mason Marcellus was the guy everybody was talking about. And Mason Marcellus has proved it. Marcellus was all over the ice in the game, and Chris Pelosi was right behind him. Chris Pelosi had the first goal of the game, first year coming into the NCAA. Very impressive. It was an exhibition game against Northeastern. Northeastern's a very competitive team. They've always been competitive. They're always on the national scale. And I think he seemed really comfortable. He was getting pucks in deep, all that stuff, all those intangibles you'd like to see.
I've got another question. You talked about Marcellus. I want to talk about another talented first year that was in Hamden a couple years ago. Sam Lipkin. Do you think Pelosi can impact this team the way that Sam Lipkin did during his first year in Hamden?
I think it's possible, but I don't like to make predictions like that, Nafa, because I think that's too far in the future.
I'm going to make the prediction now. Lipkin was a 7th-round pick. Granted, that was a little earlier on. Was 4th in points as a first year here on program history and 5th in assists. The parallels are unbelievable. 1 bronze with Team USA at the IIHF World Juniors. Pelosi, 3rd-round pick, kind of signals maybe better NHL talent. 1 bronze with Team USA at World Junior A Challenge this past summer. And on top of that, they both were 28. They both were 28 in Hamden. I think Pelosi has the potential to have a bigger impact on this team than Lipkin did during his first year.
Well, that's a prediction for you, Nafa, but I think the 28 comparison's a little bit of a stretch.
It is.
Even for you. I know you like to make stretches, but I think that's even too much of a stretch for you.
It's just a little interesting thing that new first year on the second line comes in with the same number as the guy that was drafted.
When did you get into voodoo, man? Like, what is this? What is
this
prediction?
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but stick around for some more hockey talk, plus some more Bobcat teams who are finding success. We'll be right back.
done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
How much difference can one vote make? Since 2023, more than 60 U.S. elections have been tied or won by just one vote. So this fall, your friend could be the tiebreaker. And that could make all the difference. People are more likely to vote when encouraged by a friend. So use your power to decide this election. Make sure you're good to vote and encourage your friends to make a voting plan at votevotevotecom.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. Now that men's and women's ice hockey are in the full swing of things, we'll be talking about who will be the top 6 forwards for each team. Nafa and Stokinger are going to be taking us to their coaching boards to talk about their top 6. Let's start with women's. Nafa, who are your top 6?
So for my top line, I'm going to go Kaylin LaMarche, Maddie Samuskevich, and Maya Labad from left to right. And then I'll go Catherine Stockdale, Sophie Urban, and Lawrence Fournette on that second line. I think that top line, they started game 2 against Northeastern. They looked pretty good once again. I think that top line's pretty much cemented. And then the Fournette-Urban connection has been good so far as well on that second line. And I think Catherine Stockdale is going to get more chances playing up with Urban and Fournette. Fournette, very talented on the offensive side. Urban, kind of more of a two-way player, but I think does a very good job at setting up her teammates. And so I think Stockdale would fit in perfectly in that second line with them.
Nafa, I have to agree with you on your first line. I had Maya Labad, Maddie Samuskevich, and Kaylin LaMarche, but I flipped them. I think LaMarche, great talent. We saw her last year. One of the best freshmen in the first years in the country, and then Maya Labad, the senior, Maddie Samuskevich, moving from defense to the center. Down in my second line, I have Emerson Jarvis, Lawrence Fournette, and Catherine Stockdale. I have to agree with your points about Stockdale and Fournette. I think moving Fournette into the center line is going to bode well for the Bobcats. I really like Emerson Jarvis. I love the way she plays. Kind of plays like a bulldog. Mm-hmm. She attacks the puck with like the ferocity of a bulldog going after a bone, and I think that will bode well. I do like the Urban pick. Mm-hmm. I think she bodes well better for a third line. Yeah. Where you would put some inexperienced wingers. Yeah. That two-way ability with inexperienced wingers could go a long way for this Bobcats team.
I just think the connection she's already built with Fournette is something that I would want to keep together, at least in the early season. And I just think also that putting Jarvis up there, I think you described her play. I think that fits better as a third line center, being a scrappier player. And I also don't want to toss Fournette into the center circle a little more unexperienced there, especially seeing how successful Urban can be in the faceoff dot.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Let's switch over to the men's side. Nafa, who are your top 6 on the men's
So my top 6 for the men's side, I'm going to go with my top line, Mason Marcellus, Travis Treloar, and Andon Serbone from left to right. And then on that second line, this might be my favorite line, Jack Ricketts, Chris Pelosi, and Victor Chernesky in there. I just don't think that Rand Pecknold is going to break up the Cipollone, McGroarty, and power line. It's that third line, kind of the staple of this team, part of that identity. They really play through the system. And I think eventually this team's going to need a scoring bump in production, and he'll put together the 3 holdovers that have a lot of talent here in Hamden. And also, they played together a little bit last year when Treloar came back from injury towards the second half of the season. I just think that line is going to be needed at some point. You got to put your top dogs together and get that scoring punch.
Oh, Nafa, I think I'm going to have a hot take here. In my first line, I got Chris Pelosi on the left, Travis Treloar in center, Mason Marcellus on the right. I love how you compared Marcellus to Lipkin. I think Pelosi is a lot more like Marcellus. May not have the overwhelming speed. That physical nature on the left wing is going to go both great. Then I have Andon Serbone, Victor Chernesky in the center position, and then I got Alex Power. I really thought Alex Power did pretty well this time. Granted, he was a third line center, but towards the end of the year, Alex Power was relied on a lot. That third line, you talk about that experience. I think he's proven enough to get some second line minutes so far.
He's proven that he can get second line minutes, but I think he's proven that because of the players he's alongside. There's just so much chemistry. They play so well together that I don't think you can break that up. And also, I do agree with the Chernesky and possibly being a center. I have Pelosi as the center on the second line just because that's what we saw against Northeastern in the exhibition game. But I do agree that Chernesky can flip there. He played a decent amount of center last year. If Pelosi doesn't bode as well in the faceoff dot. So I agree that Chernesky can play in the middle. I just think that second line of Ricketts, Chernesky, Pelosi can be the difference between this team making a deep run in the NCAA tournament or going home early again.
I think Chernesky just I think he's a better fit for center. You talk about concerns about Pelosi early on in the season. If he doesn't bode well, you could drop some early games. Do you really want to drop?
I'll keep
Trubisky
at center, but I think Pelosi stays on that second line with him and Ricketts. That team, that line might have the potential.
Do you remember last year Mason Marcellus was like getting first line minutes
during the
BC game?
I know you weren't here. Do you remember 2022? Coming off a regional loss to a team that was stacked with first-round draft picks and NHL draft picks from top to bottom, including a third-round goaltender. You know what their second line consisted of? A talented first year that was an NHL draft pick, another guy that was a veteran holdover, and a transfer student. Colin Graff, Sam Lipkin, and Jacob Quillen. Ricketts, Pelosi, and Trubisky have the potential to impact this team the same way that those guys did when they won the national championship. I'm not saying they win it all this year, but I think that second line can make that impact on this young of a team and this inexperienced of a team.
I think it's too early to call. I don't know what you see in John Ricketts. I don't think he's second line material. He played
point scorer.
Okay, he played at Holy Cross. Are you gonna tell me that Holy Cross is a national powerhouse?
I'm not saying they're powerhouse.
When was College of Holy Cross a national powerhouse in Division I hockey?
But I'm telling you, he put up production with nobody
in Atlantic hockey.
With nobody
I don't think he's going to translate to the ECAC as much as you do.
Colin Graff was putting up numbers at Union. Union didn't do that well before.
Union's an ECAC. That's the same conference. I don't know where you're going with this. I don't. I'm
just telling you that having that veteran experience, we saw it with Travis Treelord too coming over. Again, might have been the Big Ten, still stepped in here into Quinnipiac and played in this system and produced one of the best years of his career.
All right, well, because Nafa mentioned the Cipolone, McGroarty, and power line, I'll have to agree with him for this block. Sorry, Stokes. We're going to take another quick break, but stay with us to hear more on a Bobcat team that is dominating the conference. We'll be right back.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Meet the Scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I debate all day. It's what I do. But there are some things that are undebatable, like your mental health. I was in a dark place when my brother passed away in a car accident. I was depressed in ways I never imagined. I reached out, and my sisters came, my pastor, my therapist. They helped me get through it. I found that the more I spoke up, the healthier my mind became. When you love your mind, you can go so much further. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. If you're just joining us, I'm Tony Wetmore alongside Zach Napa and Zach Stokinger. Let's move off the ice and over to the pitch. Women's soccer has yet to get scored on in MAC play, and the last time they conceded a goal was August 29th. Will the team have a drop-off at any point this year? Stokinger, what do you think?
I'll keep it short and sweet, Tony. I know I've been very long-winded today. No, they're not doing it. I don't think this team has it. I don't know if this team has it. Looking ahead at this schedule, I have 3 teams that I'd like to point out. Merrimack, new MAC opponent, haven't played them any time in Quinnipiac's Division I history. They played for over a decade in D2. I think that's a trap game for these Bobcats, and we saw it last year how this team went undefeated in MAC play. I don't think they can repeat that. NAFA, don't even look at me like that. Looking ahead to another one, Manhattan, pretty back and forth history between these two teams. Tied last time out, and Iona, another back and forth season, and then it's at the end of the year. Wear and tear builds up. I just don't have the faith.
Now, Nafa, I know you've already addressed this on Bobcat Game Day, so let's take a look at the flashback.
Overall for the Quinnipiac Bobcats as a team, 13.5 wins.
Thank you for my hammer.
Don't
back.
worry.
They're hammering the over once again. This team, if you're keeping track, I know Seb's gonna bring it up. That means they'd have to go undefeated the rest of the year. When's the last time they lost a MAC game? When's the last time?
They haven't lost one in 2 years.
In 2 years, they're not losing again. Hammer the over. They're going undefeated. Regular season MAC champions. What do you think, Beckett? What do you think?
Do you still feel as passionately as you did on September 21st?
1,000% yes. I'll double down on that. This team has done nothing to prove otherwise. Stokinger, you picked Merrimack, Manhattan, and Iona as trap games? I can somewhat see the Merrimack one. They're higher than them in the RPI. You didn't take Canisius, who was undefeated in MAC play, or Fairfield, the last game of the year, as trap games. Even if I was to agree with your argument, I still had to disagree with Mitt. But on top of that, this team has had different lineups in the same results. They just keep winning. That's all they know how to do. Dave Clark won't let them know anything else. The defense is locked down, and even when lapses do happen, Sofia Lo-Spinoso is nails in net. There's a reason why this team hasn't given up a goal in MAC play this year. On top of their talented back line with Madison Alves, Tally Lyon, Victoria Foster, among others, Madison Mandler, and then Lo-Spinoso's talented play in net. I'm talking about substitutions. You don't have to count. I know there's 4. On top of the defensive midfield play as well, this team is loaded, and I expect nothing less than an undefeated MAC regular season title.
Oh, all right, cool. 2007 Patriots. Do I need to say more? I mean,
were the Patriots three-peating? Kansas City Chiefs, UConn, they dominate. No, Kansas City's 5-0 to start this year. Teams have that culture. Culture, identity.
I understand the point you're making here, but I'm talking about trap games.
Your trap games weren't even good trap games.
All right.
On the road against
What are you
Canisius,
talking about?
in the last game of the year against Fairfield, you can use your wear and tear argument against Fairfield.
You can use it against Iona too. What do you mean?
Iona's not the top teams the way Fairfield has been. Fairfield has battled Quinnipiac year in and year out. At least if you're going to pick a trap game, pick the right ones.
I mean, I don't understand why this is such a key sticking point with you. I just think that these are the trap games that are moving forward for this team. Wear and tear is going to happen. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to matter. They've got depth. They are 22 deep, as Dave Clark would say. The reason why they lost in the NCAA tournament a couple years ago is because they didn't have enough depth. They do now.
Okay, but they still
lost.
Let's
switch over to some rugby. In their last 3 games, the Bobcats have outscored their opponents 161-29. What aspect of the team has been the most noticeable? Stokinger, we'll start with you.
It's pretty simple, Tony. It's just winning attitude. The head coach Becky Carlson's team, it's all about attitude. I've been talking to her in the press conferences, NAFA, and she's not satisfied. Last week when they played Princeton, they won 62-19. Do you want to know what the main talking point about that press conference was?
They didn't score enough.
She was disappointed.
They didn't score enough, and they gave up too many points.
They scored 62 points. She wouldn't care if they scored 100 if that other team scored. That was her mindset. It's clear this team wants to win a national championship. You got AIC this weekend. They should win that. But then you got a two-headed monster in Army at West Point and Dartmouth. Dartmouth, the team that beat the Bobcats last year in the NRA championships.
Stoker, you know what's crazy? Is I had no idea you were going to say that, and I agree with you. I 100% agree. The only thing I would add to that argument is I think this team has a different energy because they want to prove everyone wrong, like some of what you said, and they're playing for their coach. But I think part of that's coming from the attention they might have received from the Olympics. Because when you have an alum like Alona Marr go and show the world what she can do and lead Team USA to a bronze medal when they weren't expected to, I just think that now they have that reinforced desire to win. So I shockingly agree with you on this.
I wouldn't say shockingly because I
just meant I didn't think you were going to come up with the same point as me.
I'm glad that we can all agree on this. We're going to take one last break before we share our final roars. Don't go anywhere.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. Everyone deserves to live a full life. And with your help, together we can end hunger. Join the movement at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
As a dad, every day is a challenge. to make sure that the time that I spend with them, it doesn't matter how tired you are, you have to try and to teach them. When they learn something new and you can just see in their faces, it's such an incredible moment. It's those moments that are my favorite.
This year, celebrate Vote Early Day.
And make your voice heard.
Each year, the amount of people voting early grows.
And this fall, over 250 million Americans can vote early.
In person.
By dropping off their ballot.
Or mailing it in. With so many options, you can vote when it's convenient for you.
Election Day is the last day to cast your ballot.
So the question isn't why vote early.
It's why wait. Join the celebration and find out how you can vote early at voteearlyday.org.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown. Now let's get into our final roars. One of the most important things you can do in the sports industry and in life is build meaningful connections. Someone you cross paths with now may be able to help you down the line and vice versa. It's essential to build a network of like-minded people with similar goals and aspirations. I've walked through doors I never even imagined because of the amazing people I've been fortunate to meet along the way. So take a chance. Talk to everyone you meet. Find someone who is doing what you hope to do one day and learn from them. And one day, you'll be able to return the favor to those who come up after you. There's a seat at the table for everyone who is dedicated to finding success in this industry. Empower those around you and focus on running your own race. You will end up exactly where you were meant to be. So support those around you and watch the bar above you rise with every accomplishment each of you make.
The Quinnipiac rugby team has been a sport on campus since 2011. While not being the longest tenured team on campus, that doesn't mean that it isn't one of the best. This rugby team is one of the best teams on campus right now, and I don't think anyone knows about it. Sure, we can talk about the ice hockey teams, the women's soccer teams' dominance of the MAC, or the upcoming potential of the basketball teams. But this rugby team gets little to no respect. They've had up and down years throughout the past, but head coach Becky Carlson has put together an uber competitive team, a team that tied last season's NIRA national champions in their home opener and has started the season unbeaten. This team is sound on both sides of the ball and has a winning attitude about them. They've crushed non-Ivy League opponents and have had a positive 132 points differential on the season. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that this team will compete and win their fourth national title in program history and cement themselves as one of, if not the best program on campus.
In this new era of college athletics, where the transfer portal and NIL reign supreme, it is oftentimes difficult to find players who remain with one team throughout their entire collegiate career. Quinnipiac is no different. Take, for example, the men's ice hockey team. They took home a national championship just 18 months ago. Yet flash forward to this season, and only 4 members of the championship team remain. One of those 4 players is goaltender Noah Altman. Altman has played sparingly during his time in Hamden, appearing in just 5 games over 3 seasons. Even after both Yaniv Peretz and Chase Clark left after a national championship, Altman found himself behind newcomers Vinny Duplessis and Mate Marinov. It appears Altman will once again find himself as a third-string goaltender, even with the departure of Duplessis. Nobody could blame him if he chose to leave Quinnipiac in search of a new home to try and compete for more playing time. And yet, Altman has remained loyal to the Bobcats, and his impact to this team is immeasurable. He has been named an assistant captain for this upcoming year, and head coach Rand Pecknold went out of his way to mention Altman during the ECAC hockey preseason Zoom, saying he is, quote, one of the best kids we've ever had from a character perspective. His leadership is also displayed in the classroom, as he was named an ECAC All-Academic selection as a sophomore. Altman is a fan favorite in Bobcat Nation, and while he may not get as much time on the ice, he deserves the spotlight just as much as any other member of the team.
Before we wrap up tonight, I am curious, as men's ice hockey beat reporters, what's your prediction for Saturday's game?
Give me 3-2 Quinnipiac.
I like the Bobcats a lot more than you do, Zach. I want 4-0 Bobcats in a shutout.
All right, well, we'll just have to see. That's all we have for tonight. Thank you to everyone working hard behind the scenes, and make sure to follow us on X and Instagram at Q30 Sports to stay up to date on Quinnipiac Sports. I'm Tony Wetmore with Zach Naffa and Zach Stokinger, signing off for Bobcat Breakdown.